The UN has partnered with Bill Gates on this, what they call digital public infrastructure. It's a very fancy term. And I think the simplest way to understand it is they're building a giant digital gulag for all of humanity. So the UN Development Program has officially launched this. It was officially launched at the end of last year, where they're going to get 50 governments, they call them countries, but really they mean governments, to impose at least some major element of this digital public infrastructure on their population within 5 years. So 2028.
Passports.
Digital IDs, and those are already emerging. In fact, many states are developing these. I just went through the airport yesterday. You can scan your digital ID QR code, right? So that's happening.
And that's really one of the main reasons for the COVID
absolutely
nonsense.
The architecture that was laid down is the backbone of this global control grid that they're building. So then you've got the central bank digital currencies, which are already being unveiled. Right? They've already been released. The World Economic Forum just said a few days ago, 98% of the governments and central banks in the world are working on these CBDCs. Once they're fully operational, I guarantee you, they're going to start waging war on cash much more openly. They'll say it's a tool for terrorists and pimps and every nasty thing, tax cheats, everything you can think of. Then you've got the payment processing systems, and you've also got, we just had the head of the World Health Organization talk about this recently, the digital health certificates, the digital vaccine passports. They're taking what the EU developed during the COVID, which, by the way, the European Commission was promoting vaccine passports in May of 2019, long before anybody ever heard of COVID or anything like that. So they're taking all of this together, and they are using it to build a control system that will not just be able to surveil and monitor everything you do on an unprecedented scale. When you combine it with AI, the ability to make sense of all this data, it's just mind-blowing, but also to manipulate what you do. And so they're talking about this, again, pretty openly. If you look at the World Economic Forum meetings, they talk about the benefits of programmable central bank digital currency, where they will be able to say who can buy what, when, under what conditions. And then the Bank for International Settlements, Carol Quigley, to go back to him for a moment, Bill Clinton's mentor, the guy who really exposed this global agenda to create a one world system, he said the apex of the system was going to be the Bank for International Settlements. This is an institution that's almost entirely unknown to Americans. And what they are working on right now, and this is not a secret, it's not a conspiracy because it's not happening behind closed doors, is what they call a universal blockchain ledger. They want to tokenize every asset in the known universe, every farm, every car, every house, every tree, put it on this ledger, this blockchain ledger, and then you're only able to interact with this blockchain ledger using your biometric digital ID, using your central bank digital currencies. And so if I want to buy something from you, I can't just hand you a $100 bill. I've got to go on my device, connect to this blockchain system, transfer the central bank digital currencies to you. And so this is a mechanism for controlling humanity that I think is really unprecedented in human history. And when you take it all together, it's very obvious.
The BIS is the Bank of International Settlements, and it's the central bank of central banks.
Where is that located?
It's in Basel, Switzerland, and it has 63 of the most powerful central banks as its members, and the New York Fed and the Fed are both shareholders. They became shareholders in 1994.
In one sentence, what's the purpose of the Bank of International Settlements?
Okay, so there are two things you need to know about the Bank of International Settlements.
I'm not sure my brain's big enough for this, but keep going.
It is.
Okay.
It has sovereign immunity.
What does that mean?
It's above the law.
It's its own country.
Right. It's its own country. It has its own police force. And essentially, other than one of its staff being in a car accident or, minor things, no one has the legal authority to move against it. Okay, it has sovereign immunity. That's number one. Number two, it can move money and hold it on its on its balance sheet and manage money secretly. So if I want to, I'm grossly oversimplifying, if I want to steal 21 trillion from the U.S. government and park it on the balance sheet of the BIS, it can move it anywhere in the world and it can keep it on its balance sheet secretly.
Why would there be an organization? But first of all, where does its power? Like, who empowered it to have sovereign immunity and the right?
It was created after World War I and sort of collected its powers and got going in the 30s. And it was created in theory to manage the reparations of the German government. But if you read the real history, it was because the Bank of England and the central bankers wanted an entity that had sovereign immunity. They wanted to be able to move money secretly. So, for example, if you look at what happened during World War II and all the money that was moving back and forth between the Germans and Americans, Dulles was over in Switzerland helping to manage all these transfers back and forth. So there's a wonderful book called The Tower of Basel by a wonderful Hungarian journalist where he documents and describes the whole history of the Bank of International Settlements. And if you want to understand power in this world, understanding how the Bank of International Settlements and the plumbing of the central banking system works is very, very important.
This is Daniel's 8:25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Kahala Yahweh B'Hashem Yahshai B'Hashem Rukak. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Asherallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the coming AI prison, or Gulag, which is being set up around the world, which is going to ultimately imprison the world to be underneath the Edomite world empire that these Edomites are currently setting up. Now, when I say Edomites, I'm referring to the true biblical identity of the so-called Caucasian and Israeli race, because again, when you get to the bottom of all this and you get to the end of all these secret societies and who's connected to what, and what are these people doing, what are those people doing, it ultimately goes back to the same group of people, the same 13 families. They're all tied to the same nationality. They all descend from the same person known as Esau of the Bible, who you can read about in Genesis 25 and 25, making these people the biblical Edomites, who are the prophesied nation to be ruling at the end of days, right? The end times before the second coming of the Messiah, and also who will eventually be revealed as the Antichrist nation before being destroyed. So that being said, in the video we just watched, the first video explained how there's going to be a swift change over to an AI digital currency monitoring system, and that once they release the digital IDs and along with the digital CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, then they're gonna start to criminalize and make using cash a thing of the past, kind of like what they're doing right now in the UK, where I think if you spend more than, I think it's like, is it $700 or $1,000? I think if you start using that, it's considered a criminal act or something like that. Like you're not supposed to be using cash for high balance transactions, because they say that that's criminal. Well, they're going to do the same thing over here in the Americas. But again, and then that's going to eventually tie to the digital social credit system, which is going to replace the current credit system, right? And the credit ratings that people are going to have. Everybody's going to be getting a UBI, universal basic income, so that way you're beholden to this globalist agenda, right? Because again, if you won't speak up if you won't get paid. So that being said, this has ultimately all been set up already, because like in the second video with that Christine Fitz lady, who was a Bush administration official, I forgot exactly what she did, but she went on Tucker and she explained the dynamics of the BIS bank, right? Basically, that was like the first centralized bank for the Rothschilds. And again, the Rothschilds go back to these Edomites, right? And the thing is this was the linchpin on their control over the world's financial systems. Now, the Bank of International Settlements they're above the legal system, right? Like the lady said, right? They have sovereign immunity. Okay, these bankers can go around the world. They could travel with suitcases full of money, and nobody can open them up legally. Okay, they have their agents have diplomatic immunity, and it's pretty much just Esau's financial arm, right? Where basically he's using this system and these banks to control the world. So again, the system that we are being plunged into right now, it is a system that's been long set up. All the way back, let me go to the Bible timeline. All the way back from the time when these devils, when they're, who they claim was their Messiah, Zebediah Zebi, right? The Sabbateans, right? Basically, he was an Amalekite. And in 1666, I gotta laugh because it's fucking so hilarious how these devils use all this numerology. Which again, numerology is a Babylonian doctrine, right? Basically, it goes back to the Babylonians. But the thing is they ultimately set up a system or plans for world domination, and in these plans, it was to control ultimately the world's finances. Okay, and then eventually, that devil Zebediah Zebi fucking kicked the bucket, right? And then you had this fucking Edomite devil, right? A so-called Amalekite. Oh, I'm sorry, an Amalekite, a so-called Jewish person, Jacob Frank. Okay, he came about, and let's actually just read it. It says Jacob picked up where Zebediah Zebi left off at. He claimed to be Zebediah Zebi in the reincarnation, father of modern terrorism, avid Kabbalist, claimed to be the Jewish Messiah, and believed to be author of the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. His teachings start the Jacobins movement, which leads to the French Revolution, communism, and future New World Order world takeover by Edom. And that's it. So this is where it basically comes from, right? This whole Bank of International Settlements, Edom's control, even them pushing for the creation of the United States, America. Okay, remember, Freemasonry is for the most part just it's the lower houses of the House of Edom, basically the non-Amalekite Edomites, wanting to do the will of the Amalekites to be blessed and get, use that Kabbalah Babylonian magic. Okay, so that being said, all this has been set up, so there's no way that you're going to get out from around this. Okay, you're not going to be able to, skirt the system, and you're ultimately going to have to get a digital ID to live in this society, to basically operate. Now, again, just like the apostle said, it's okay to get the digital ID, okay, but again, it's going to put you into this digital gulag, okay, and what that means is that everything is going to be tracked. Now, one, you shouldn't be really doing anything bad, okay, so one, you should have nothing to worry about, but again, Esau is going to be keeping an eye on everybody through AI. So again, everything is going to be watched, everything is going to be tracked, right? If you're doing bad shit, Esau is going to come down on you. But if you're out here on these streets doing wicked shit, right, like selling drugs, basically committing crimes, just being wicked like the 2/3 of our people are, then Esau is going to come down on you, right? The Bible itself tells you, right, that we are to obey the laws of the lands that we are in, and ultimately we're to obey the rulers over us. And why is that? Well, because all this is all ordained by God. Okay, Yahweh, the Most High Father of the Bible, He has put us Israelites in this situation. Okay, just like when the southern kingdom of Israel was about to go into captivity to Babylon, the Lord sent the prophets to tell the Israelites of the southern kingdom to obey the laws and to basically, go into captivity, and that there they would, get their punishment. Well, it's the same thing here in America, which is Babylon the Great in the Bible. Now, what this means is that again, we don't have to basically be living in the American spirit, right? Putting on the red MAGA hats and, being like these Edomites or these, but what it means is that while we're here in this country, and whatever country the Lord has spread us into, is we got to obey the laws and live peaceably amongst these men. Now let's read this. This is Romans 13:3. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, right? This is the rulers of the country, right? For there is no power but God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever there resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Here's the point. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have the praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. So again, we're about to go into some crazy time, but what this means for us Israelites, the hopeful elect, the ones who want to make it out of this, we got to basically just fall in line and be good citizens, okay? We don't need to try to go against the laws. Don't try to revolt. Don't be going into these riots where you see Jake always, busting into these stores whenever some riot comes in, stealing, TVs, clothing, and all this bullshit that they don't need, right? Because if you're going to be caught up in 2/3 activity, you're going to be treated like a 2/3 by the divine powers, and you're going to receive that judgment. That being said, do as the apostles have commanded us, right? Don't be going to these clubs, stay out of trouble, and obey the law to the best of our ability, okay? Because why? Well, because you see, these Edomites, even though they're wicked as hell, they've been put into their place of power by the Most High, right? And for those who do good works, right? What are they? Well, they are a minister of God, right? And for those Israelites who are doing bad, they're going to be revengers to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Okay? So all those Israelites, those 2/3 that you see getting shot down in the streets, those are all freaking wicked ass 2/3 that basically haven't found God, haven't found the truth, haven't repented, and ultimately they're being, judged. And the Lord is using Esau as that whipping stick, right? The Bible calls these Edomites the hammer of the earth. Okay? So that being said, all these draconian laws, this clamping down on rights, and basically the restrictions of the New World Order that are coming down, they're ultimately going to lead to this. Now this here, let me read it real quick. This is Revelations 13 and 16. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. This is where the 666 comes from. But see, so this here is where all this is coming to: the rigged elections, the blatant corruption, Amalek doing the most right now to take over America, right? All this stuff is all happening to get to this, right? The data centers being built all around the world, AI being rushed through with Project Lightspeed, I think is what it's called, right? Or the point being is that, or sorry, Project Stargate. But the point being is that this is where it all is going to, man, because this is these Edomites' agenda at the very top. Now, these low-level Edomites, your managers, your police, your mayors, they don't fucking know about this unless they're like some high-level Freemason. But the top Edomites, the Rothschilds, the 13 families, and all these people at the very top, they understand that they are the Edomites, and they understand that this world is not longed for them, that they are only the temporary rulers of this world, and that when the Messiah comes back, that ultimately he's going to take them out of power, and it's going to be done, over for them. So what they're hoping to do is to basically disqualify you Israelites from getting that blessing. And how are they going to try to disqualify us? Well, by what I just read, by making you pledge an oath of fealty, right? Basically tie your soul to them forever, because by you taking this implant, this charagma, as what the Bible refers to this mark, right? It's Greek for the word there, mark, is Greek for charagma, right? Which is basically, it's an incision, it's a palisade, basically a pointy stick, okay? And this goes back to the Levitic or the Exodus law that basically that states that if a slave after the 7 years of service wanted to stay with his master forever, that the master would basically have to pierce his ear through, or basically pierce the skin of the slave, and to the house. But basically that whole physical act would be a spiritual marker that slave has now bound himself spiritually to his master forever. And these Edomites understand this, okay? This is why the very top Edomites, these Amalekites, they're all into Kabbalah, because they understand the magic and the spiritual force behind it, okay? So they're here trying to fulfill that law of slavery, to enslave all the world to them. And they believe that by enslaving all the Israelites, or killing off the rest, that there will be nobody left, that there'll be no more Israelites left to give the blessing to, and hence the Lord is going to give them, Esau, back the blessing. Okay, that's what these Edomites are ultimately doing. But again, this is one thing, that we cannot, abide with. Okay, right? Just like I said, right? We got to keep the laws, and we got to make sure that we're following the laws of the land here, up until this point. When they try to insert a microchip in your hand or in your forehead, right? Or they tell you that you can take this brain chip and you could then import your digital ID, your social credit system, and everything into those chips, that's when you have to resist and basically opt out of the system and not take it. That right there is the line in the sand that us Israelites cannot pass. Because what happens if you do? Well, let's go and read it. This is Revelations 14 and 9. It says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb." Okay, so there it is. So by taking this implantable RFID chip that's going to be issued by the world government, right, that's going to hold your digital ID, your social credit system, your digital dollars, CBDCs, and everything that's you, it's going to be on these chips. If you take this, so that way you could, garner, or you could be part of Esau's NWO, then you're going to receive of his judgment, because what you've done is you spiritually tied yourself to these Edomites. And then that means that just like when the Lord commanded the Israelites to destroy the Amalekites, kill everything, kill even their animals, and everything, you're going to be part of that. You're going to be part of the Edomite conglomerate, okay? And the Lord's going to have no other option but to basically snuff you out. This is Ezekiel 21 and 9. "Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith Yahweh Bashem Hashai, say, a sword is sharpened and is furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree." So that being said, the Lord right now is getting ready to bring mass judgment upon the earth. And we have to basically make sure that we're on the side that doesn't receive that punishment, okay? Because it tells you in the Bible that 2 out of every 3 Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and all those whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline, they're ultimately going to fail this test. They're going to give in or ultimately they're not going to make it to that part of of this timeline. Okay, and they're referred to as the 2/3 of Israel. Again, 2 out of every 3 Negro, Latino, Native Americans, 2 out of every 3 Israelites. And again, this is why we call them the 2/3, right? Because of this, let's read it. Zechariah 13:8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, right, all over the earth, saith Yahweh Bashem Ashai, 2 parts, right, 2/3 therein shall be cut off and die, but the 3rd part, right, the 1/3 shall be left therein, right? And I will bring the 3rd part through the fire, right? That's the tribulation. That's all the crazy things that we're about to go through, and eventually the nuclear explosions which are going to hit, right? It says, and I will refine them as silver is refined, and I will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh Bashem Shai is my God. And that's it, right? See, so that right there is what is awaiting all those people who partake in Esau's system, which this AI gulag that they're setting up around the world is going to eventually lead to. This is Ecclesiasticus 5:7. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day, for suddenly shall the wrath of Yahweh Bashem Ashai come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. Right? The day of vengeance is when the Lord returns and everything goes down. So either way, Akim, hopefully this video was edifying. Until next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh Bashem Ashai Bashem Ruach HaKodesh. Shalom.